Hi everyone and welcome to my craft room. My name's I'm not quite sure that it's starting, but we'll see. Here we go. Welcome to my craft room. My name's Julianne Richards. Would normally go on to say I'm a independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, but as of last week I am no longer a Stampin' Up demonstrator, which is a little bit weird for me actually at the moment. But I will go through and I'll explain a little bit more to that when I've checked my volume and all those sorts of things. Let's go on there. I'll explain a little bit more. Okay, the volume seems to be working. A couple of things have changed in the craft room. Yes, no longer a Stampin' Up demonstrator. I'm not going to go into long detail as to why that happened. I'm not going to record a 20-30 minute video saying airing all my grievances, not that I had very many. But like some people do, no, just the fact that I am no longer a demonstrator and so therefore can't sell you anything. So that's probably quite a relief actually, because I'm going to be sitting here showing you this great card and making sure that you can make one for yourself in the craft room. Internet is telling me that there's some stuff happening with the stream here, so we might have to see how that goes. If you jump on, tell me where you're watching from. Unfortunately, we're only on Facebook at the moment. We're not on YouTube, but I will share the video over to YouTube once we've finished. Yes, it looks like it's having a few issues, and I'm not sure whether that is my internet from my iPad or the internet from my stream. I'm not quite sure. There's no one on at the moment, so I might just check that. Streaming through the through actual Facebook is a little bit different for me. It's not something I've done for a while. Still nobody on, which is a little bit surprising. Usually people jump on straight away when they see that I've come on, but anyway, we'll keep going and see how it goes. I'm not really sure what everyone's seeing until I actually somebody on to tell me. They are all good. What we're going to make is what I've seen on my Facebook stream, and a few of you have actually said you've seen them as well. They're called, or they have been called, an accordion box card. I've made a couple of them. I've been using this wonderful paper from Paper Rose and some of the embellishments as well, and there's a little bit of Stampin' Up thrown in there for good measure. As I say, if you see something you like, I can't actually help you buy it, but although I can point you in the right direction if you'd like to grab a new Stampin' Up demonstrator. I've definitely got some lovely team members who can help you with, or ex-team members who can help you with that. And the Paper Rose stuff is available online as well. I am trying to work out some way I can get a sort of affiliate link or something with Paper Rose, and we'll see how that goes in the future. There might be an option there for doing classes and stuff like that. But anyway, so yes, it's an accordion box card. I watched a video, and basically it made my head spin a wee bit, just how complicated it appeared. So I put on my hat, my thinking cap, and made a couple of tweaks to it that made it, I think, a fair bit easier. So rather than a couple of the ones that I watched, a couple of the videos that I watched had belly bands on it, which mean that you had to squeeze it all the way down there, which meant you were limited with the decorations you could use. I sort of changed it a little bit just with this little ribbon at the top here, which means that you can take the ribbon off and the card will explode in all its glory. It's really exciting to watch. All I like it. It opens up like that and you get this lovely accordion here. So you've got two boxes on either side. You could do it with just just a layer on either side, I assume, but I actually have made boxes on either side. And the cool thing is that you can pop, the way we've done the boxes, you can open them. Here we go, you can open them on both sides. And you could pop something in either side as a little gift with your card. So I would suggest something light. I wouldn't go loading it up with rocks or pebbles or anything heavy, cement, anything like that. It's got to be light because you don't want it to force the sides down too far. You can force it a little way, make it a little bit heavier than it is so it opens up like that. But yeah, I wouldn't go too far, and I would also make sure you evened it up so that there was the same amount of stuff in both sides. I've noticed a few people getting up now, so hello Linda, hey Sharon, hey Diane. Now ladies, tell me how your internet is dealing with it because, as I say, I'm streaming in a different way and I'm not quite sure how the interweb is taking to it, and the sound and the picture and all those things that we usually check. A brand new world because I don't have a business page anymore, and so I had to change the way I'm streaming, which means I couldn't also go to YouTube, so I'll put the video over there soon. Okay, so that's the card we will make. There's even a tweak from that as to how I'll make this other one, this second one. We'll see how it turns out. But anyway, yeah, so that's the card we're going to make. Now, another thing, this is how it looks when you give it to the person. There's no folding it flat and putting it in an envelope. It would even be a little bit tricky to put it in a box because the base is so much wider than the card itself. I suppose you could make a little bag and pop it in a little bag. That would be cute. Or just give it to the person like that. I mean, let's face it, the way that it goes woof when they open it up is the surprise of it. So, you know, how you give it to the person isn't too much of a problem, especially if you're going to fill it with something nice. Or not fill it. Don't make it too heavy. I'll warn you about that. I made one and put some almonds in it just to see how far I could get, and I probably half filled both sides with almonds. That was about as far as you could get before it went and sort of collapsed on the table in front of me. Okay, so to make the one we're going to make together, I'm going to use a bit of a combination of everything. I'm using the Paper Rose Studio Little Artists collection, the quick card collection. I'm going to use some die cuts and the paper from that one. Lovely bright colours, really, really nice bright colours. I am combining it with some Stampin' Up, two-tone cardstock and white cardstock. So this is the Petunia Pop two-tone cardstock. So you can see it's light on one side and dark on the other. You could use, I'm going to use this for the actual accordion inside. You could go to heavier cardstock if you want. It does change the measurements a bit if you're using A4. You could use heavier cardstock, but I found to keep this one as light as possible so it was as springy as possible. If you use really heavy cardstock, it weighs down and it doesn't spring open quite as nicely. So point number one, that was different from the video. Use lighter cardstock when you're making your accordion. So what we'll do is we'll make our accordion first. So I say 12 by 12 cardstock. Hopefully you can see that. I know my cameras are quite high, but we'll see how we go. I'm going to cut it down. We're going to make two 4-inch high sort of little fans, and we're going to join them together so that we end up with a 24 inches of fan. Now, wait a minute, what am I doing? Here we go. So 4-inch high fans. So I'm going to cut this off at 8 at the moment. Just bear with me. You'll see where I'm going. We're going to use this piece a bit later on. Then what I'm going to do is score. This is 12 by 12, or it was 12, so it's 12 inches long. I'm going to score it at every inch from one end to the next. Forgive me, there's, as far as, what's the word, metric goes, I suppose it's what, every sugar plum fairy. Okay, that's not going to work. I'll keep going. Forgot that I got my cutting blade and my scoring blade mixed up there. We'll see how we go. So 5. Didn't see that. We'll edit that out in post-production. That's okay. So 1 inch all the way from the start to the finish. Hello, Evelyn, my love. Thank you for joining me. 8, 9. So 1 inch all the way along. So forget that I actually mucked up my cutting blade there. We'll fix that later on. Well, we might not fix it. We'll see how we go. And and all the way through. So that's 1 inch all the way along. Then what I'm going to do is turn it 90 degrees and chop this baby in half. Now the one that I've accidentally cut, I'm going to have to abandon that. I'll bring in the 4 inches that's remaining and we'll do the same. So if I hadn't cut it, we would have just used that second piece and folded it up as an accordion, but since I've accidentally cut it with my, you know what it is, I've got my blades around the wrong way. I usually have my scoring blade at the bottom and my cutting blade at the top. So I've gone to grab the wrong thing. Anyway, here we go. 7, it's not going to take 2 seconds, 8, 9. So every inch from one end to the next on a 12 by 4. Okay, so that's that there. Now we're going to turn this, I'll get rid of my trim. Oh, we're going to turn this into a fan. So, as we did when we were kids, just folding them, alternating valley, mountain, oh, cat hair. Came in here last night, as you guys probably know, we're sharing the house with my son and his partner and 2 cats at the moment. And I let my son have the craft room in the evenings when he gets home from work, just to relax and play his games and unwind and all those sorts of things. And he has a very adoring long-haired black cat who sits with him. She sits with him the whole time he's on his computer. She sits just here on the desk in front of him. And yes, she leaves me some little clues that she's been here when I come in the morning. So that's one of our little accordions, our 12 inch. So we'll do the second one. I might just fold it and then score it after. For some reason my scores mustn't be all that precise. Okay, so there we are. So that's our 2 little fans, or we're going to turn them into one big fan. Okay, so what we're going to do is grab these, and because, as I've mentioned, we're going to make it into one big fan, I'm going to join them together. I probably should have gone that way with that one. Sorry, I'm going to refold this one because I wanted one fan to end sort of on a downward stroke, and the other one to start on an upward stroke. So that's what I want with that one. Okay, so as you can see, this one starts with an upward stroke and this one ends with a downward stroke, and that's what I'm going to join together. I'll grab some glue. Just put those, so the end of that one together with the start of the next one. And that's going to give us a nice big long continuous zigzag. Make sure they're straight. Oh, they are scrunched up together, and we've got a nice big fan there. Okay, a nice big accordion. Okay, so that we can pop that aside for the moment. Give it a good scrunch, and we can make these boxes. So I've already made one box. Here we are. I'm using the pretty paper from the, as I say, from the Paper Rose Studios. One of the reasons I did decide to leave Stamping Up was because there are so many wonderful, wonderful Australian companies out there making such gorgeous crafting supplies. And the way that the world is at the moment, I felt that I personally wanted to support more Australian companies. So I did a bit of a look around, and some lovely friends suggested some names, so I'm going to investigate some more. I'm not tied to anyone at the moment, which is quite an unusual feeling, to not be tied to a particular company. So I'm going to search around, see what I can find that we can use to support some Australian suppliers. Well, not just suppliers. A lot of people buy stuff from overseas and then sell it on, but I want to purchase to try and support some Australian producers as well. Okay, so here I have a 6 by 6.5 by 6.5 piece of white cardstock. Nice light cardstock. It's not heavy by any stretch, but it's nice light cardstock. And I'm going to score it to make our little, 1 by 2 by 4 box. Don't worry, I will put all the measurements into the comments of the Facebook and YouTube, so don't traumatise too much if I go a bit fast for you. So the box has, as I say, a little opening at the top. Make sure I've got the top right. A little opening at the top there. Now this pit in the video that I watched, this was just another piece that made me sort of want to throw it in the bin and move on. But hopefully this, when I'm showing, the way I'm showing you is a little bit easier. So on the first side, so we're going to pick top and bottom. So I'm going to assume the box is going to go this way. This way. Okay, so this is our first scores. So we're going to score it at half, making sure I get my cutting blade out of the way this time. That would be bad. At half, and then at, I've got to remember myself. There's the score. I've glued it so well I can't even find where the seam is. That's all right. So we'll do half and then 2.5, 3.5. So it's basically as long as you alternate 1 inch and 2 inch, you'll be fine. So that was 1 inch. So that's what was that? 3.5, 5.5, and 6. 5.5. Yeah, that's it. So there you've got your wide edges and your narrow edges and your little tag at the side. Okay, so we're going to rotate 90 degrees. We're going to do half again. No, we'll do different this one. We'll go 1 inch. So that's our seam for the bottom. That's our seam for the bottom of the score for the bottom. Then at 5, and that gives us the height of our box. And then at 6. Okay, so we've got half, 2.5, 3.5, 5.5, and then turned, and we've got half. I suppose no, take it from that side. 1, 5, and 6. Pretty easy. What I'm going to do then is going to cut some slits so that things will fold over nicely. Starting at the bottom, and I tend to use my trimmer when I'm doing it, cutting these, because my scissors and me, we're not very accurate together. So I know where these score lines are, so it's nice and easy just to bring your trimmer in. If you've got a nice easy trimmer to use like this Stampin' Up one, you can basically just line it up where the score line is and just take the trimmer up to the score line. So this is the bottom of the box. We're basically going to just cut from the bottom up to the first score line, or the only score line there really. And this will make our nice little secure bottom base. Okay, so we've just on all those scores, we've just cut up to the first score line. I am going to bring in my scissors now. For the ones that are actually square, the 1 by 1s, I'm going to angle, just cut a little angle just so it's nice and neat when it's folded up. Don't have to. And I used to not. I used to think it was a waste of time, but now I do it because it actually is neater, I think. All the box makers who do it can't be wrong. Then we're going to chop out this little 1/2 inch tab here. We're going to chop that out completely. And then I'll angle that as well. Okay, so there's the bottom of our box there. If you're a box maker, you're probably thinking I'm strangulating this a wee bit, but that's okay. I'm not really a box maker. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to cut the tops as well. So this is where the previous video that I watched really lost me, because she had all these different angles like crooked teeth, and I thought, oh, I'm never going to be able to remember how to do that. Hopefully when you've watched me do this, it's going to be a lot easier for you to work out which which bits to leave and which bits to save to get that wonderful little opening tag that we have at the top there. So what I'm going to do first of all is just line them all up and do exactly the same. I'm going to cut it with my scissors or my trimmer. I'm going to ignore the 1/2 inch tab at this moment and take it right through to the second tab, the 1.5 inch tab. I think it was the 5 inch tab, wasn't it? So each one of these little scores that we did, we'll take it right through to the second score. That was 6, wasn't it? As I say, I use my trimmer because it's nice and precise. If you've got a nice pair of sharp scissors, you can also use those. I'm going to take out this same thing as the other end. We're going to take that out with a bit of an angle. So we've got our little tab for our glue. And we're also going to take out, because we know we're not going to need them, the 2 little square ones, like we angled them at the bottom there. These 2 little square ones, we're just going to cut them at that 1/2 inch tab. So just get rid of the 1/2 inch bit at the top for both of those. Easy enough done. Okay, so what we've just done, if I open the box, open the box. Is that the way? Oh no, try and open it the wrong way. We've trimmed these 2 down. That's what we've done with those 2 little tabs there, just those 2. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do now is actually score and make the box up. So score all those score lines that we haven't cut. So they're nice and sharp, or burnish them so they're nice and sharp. Okay, and then we're going to fold it up. Now, I'm going to use glue because glue it's messy, but it's more permanent. I've made a couple in the past with double-sided tape and with snail, and they tend to come apart in time, which is not a good thing. When you're making a box, you don't want it to come apart. So I've just popped some glue on our little tab that we made. I'm going to fold the card over so it's folded in half and firm that little line down. So just fold it over so that you end up with your little tube, little square tube. Firm that down until it takes, and there we are. So now what we can do, this is our bottom, this is our base. Fold those over, fold that over, fold that over, and we have our little base made. Now you sometimes find, depending on how accurate your cutting is, it folds better one way than the other. So have a bit of an experiment, see where your scores are more accurate. Yeah, I'm going to do it that way. So pop some glue just on the base there, fold it over, and you've got your little card box base. I'm going to turn this over now, firm it down on my desk, just grab the end of my bone folder and give it a little bit of a firm down in there. Forgive the top of my head, you couldn't actually see what I was doing. There we are. Gee, I need my roots done. Just not my roots, I need the whole head, whole lot done, but that's all right. It is what it is. Okay, so we've got our little base, box base done. So as we know, we've got those little 2 ones that are going to fold over in there, and we've got to decide which of these is going to be the little lid and which one's going to be cut out completely. Now, because we've chosen to use that sort of fold over that we have, you can see that there's a seam there and there's a nice clean score there. So for this particular card, I'm going to make that the front. So that's the bit that's going to sit facing forwards, and I'm going to have the paper on it. It's nice and clean, nice and square. That's going to be my front. So what I will do then is grab my scissors. So the bit that I've decided is the front, the opposite side, I'm going to take that panel or that part of the card completely out, and I'm going to take it out right down to the end, right down to the score, the base score. This is probably the trickiest bit, and it's not even really that tricky. Nice accurate cutter, which I'm not. I'm taking that out completely. that there. Now, these are 1 inch wide and the box is 1 inch wide. So you might need to trim just a tiny bit off the edges of these. Just make a tiny little angle like we did. Not even a very big angle, just a tiny angle. This one here, I'm going to make it nice and neat. I've got my corner trimmer, my corner punch here. It's really nice. I can bring it out and be proud that I use a different brand corner punch. I'm just going to punch those so they're nice and round. Use whatever corner punch you've got or just leave it. Doesn't really matter too much. I did find that if I use the corner punch, it does slip in a little bit easier because it's got a leading edge that can go in and then snip in nice and firm. So there's our box. Okay, as I say, don't worry, I'm going to put the scoring and cutting instructions in. I may even cut one, lay it open, and then actually let you see the final sort of outline of it. But as I say, I found that a lot easier cutting those once I knew what the box was going to look like. I'm sort of tends to be someone who has to see things before I can go to that next step. I sort of can't think too far ahead, which my husband laughs at, but I can't. So I have to sort of see as I go and make sure I'm heading in the right direction. And that's why I found it easier to cut that as I knew when I knew where I was heading. Okay, so that's our second little box. That's our first box. Now you can see with this little guy, he's got some paper at the top. He's got a paper on the left-hand side and paper on the front. So configuring him with the card itself, this is the front and this is going to be the far left-hand side. So it's going to be sitting on the left of our accordion. So this one's going to be sitting on the right. So I have to put the paper on accordingly. So I've got some more of this gorgeous little apron paper cut. I've got a piece for there. So that one is 3 7/8 by 1 7/8. This little guy is 1 7/8 by 3 7/8. It's going to go on the right hand side there. And if I can find it, I've got another piece cut for the top. And that is 1 7/8 by 7/8. That's going to sit on the top there. Now I'm very far away here. I wanted to be the camera far away because of the cutting of the accordion. I know I'm far away now as well. For this fine stuff, I could probably come a little bit closer. But I don't want to muck up my stream, so hopefully you'll be able to see. Tell me if you want me to bring it a bit closer and I will. So there's the card on the front, the paper on the front. Again, this one's for the top where our little opening is. Now this, it's called, the kit is called the Little Artists Collection. I've got like paper and die cuts and everything. It's got everything. Great for kids' cards, you know, anyone who's an artist at heart, but, you know, kids that love their arts and crafts as far as that goes. And, you know, there's boy and girl images there. Lovely soft colours. Really nice. Don't have many children in my life at the moment, but I thought I do have lots of crafty people. So there you go. There we go. So that's the other box decorated. Okay. So because they're going to sit like that, we've done the top of both, the front of both, and the left and right ends and left those clear. Because in the middle there is where we're going to bring our accordion. Okay, so we've got our accordion here. Scrunch it up, make it as firm as you can. I'm going to add some glue to either end and then attach it to the insides of these two boxes. So on the left-hand side, use a small, yeah, you could too, Sharon. I don't know that I've got a punch that small. I think maybe the smallest of the dies out of stylish shapes might work. But yes, it's definitely a possibility. And then take the, oh no, you wouldn't have to take it out of the cardstock because there's no cardstock on the back. Perfect alignment. So I've popped some glue on the furthest right-hand edge of the accordion that we've made. It's lined it up and I'm pushing it down onto my table so that it is a straight line. Okay, so that's a straight line there. Feeling it with my fingers to make sure that they line up front and back. But then I'm pushing it down onto the table so that the bottom is straight. Okay, that's important because you want it to be a direct line across the bottom there. I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay, and then bring in the other box. And I've got to roll my fingers around a bit. There we go. And again, line it up, firm it down, make sure I've got the fronts and the backs right. Make sure they are lined up nicely along the bottom and that you can feel that there's not too much overlap front and back. Okay, be careful because I have used, as I say, the lighter cardstock for my boxes, so don't find yourself popping your finger through your box or giving it a dent or something. Now, while I have these cards like this, very important for the next stage is grab your ruler and measure the squished length. Okay, so I've got my ruler, my favourite T ruler. I'm bringing it in there and I'm measuring how wide it is when it's squished. And just to make life a little bit difficult, it is 4 3/8. So that's really weird because this one, when I squished it, this one was only 4 1/4. So yeah, this one's actually a little bit wider, but they may be different depending on how tightly you've scored it or how, just differences in your cutting. You might find that you're a bit different. So 4 3/8. Remember that number. I'll do it in centimetres. It's 11.2. But as I say, everyone's will be slightly different, but I'm going to go 4 3/8. That's an important number, so I have to keep that in my head. Now, the next part that was tricky that I found in the video was that the lady tried to decorate it once it was already made. So basically, if you can imagine, she had this thing like this with the base on it and everything. She was trying to decorate it. Now that's tricky as well because this base is sort of, it's got an overlap at the back. So the thing doesn't sit straight when you try and got it on your desk. It's at an angle. You probably can't see that, but it's at a weird angle. But trying to come in there and decorate it was a little bit tricky, I thought, when I did my first one. So I thought decorate it before we get the base on it and then we can lay it flat on the table. And the best way I found to do that was to grab a couple of alligator clips or butterfly clips or whatever you want to call it, and very carefully, to show you, so very carefully, just actually what was easier at the top, open this up, okay, push that in. At the top anyway, it's easy, just grab your alligator clip and put them together. Okay, so that's going to keep them together at the top. The bottom was a little bit trickier because there's nothing to open. So I'm just going to grab my clip and put it at either end of our little accordion and keep it closed that way. Okay, so now I can decorate it pretty well while it's on the desk flat and it's in its closed position. Hang on, that one's just not quite gone to the end. Just be very gentle. You don't want to destroy it at this stage or at any stage really. There we go, that's better. Okay, so now it's sitting flat on my table and I can decorate it without too much worry that I'm going to either ruin the base, because you imagine if you've got this on the desk and you're pushing down on it, you can make your base all flippy floppy, which is not what you want. This first one that I made it really flippy floppy, so it's not quite as good as it could be. Okay, so let's pop it there. So I'm going to use these cute little die cuts from the Little Artists card kit. Little Artists, very cute. Nice little rainbow, a nice little circle there with a rainbow on an easel. I'll pop that on there. Then I've got a little paint, what do they call them? Paint thing Somebody's going to tell me. There we go. A paint thing. Easel. No, that's not an easel. A board. Whatever. I do know it. As soon as you say it, I'm going to know what it is. A little paint. Mum's got a couple of them at home from when we did a Christmas thing. Anyway, there you go. It's going to sit there. A little paintbrush. I know that's called a paintbrush. And a little sentiment as well. So that's, it just says stay colourful. It's a bit hard to see the pink against the white. So what we want to do is we want so that when this guy flips open, the little decoration only stays on one side. So we're only going to actually glue it on one side. I should probably point out this is a different paper rose collection. This is called something village, colourful village, something like that. Anyway, I'll pop that in the notes as well. So yeah, that one's cute as well. But as I say, the circle only needs to sit on one side. So that's what we're going to do. So I'll get rid of my card for a second. Pop these things together. Pop that there. Might use some dimensionals, I think. Use some foam squares. Palette. Thank you, Fran. It's a palette, a paint palette. Of course it is. I think I popped it upside down. Don't know from the shadows on it. I think it should go that way. No, I think that way was right. Oh well. Here we go. We'll pop it in there anyway. That's it there. A little paintbrush. As well, and our stay colourful. Look, you could use anything you want really. You put a happy birthday there or anything like that. I just wanted to use something like something from the set. I'm going to pop that on that side. Now I don't want to overlap the little circle on the left-hand side because that's the bit that's going to sort of float free. So I'll just make sure I don't put dimensionals where I want it to float in space. Okay, so that's our little decoration there. Now, as I say, I'm going to just glue it to the right-hand side so that it just sticks to that when we've got the card open. And it's good with it closed like this because I can actually make sure it's central and I can make sure that it stays where I want it to stay. Give it a couple of seconds just to stick. Make sure it's straight. Okay, so that's our front there. I'm going to take off our clips, close down our little boxes. Okay. Oh. So there is our little concertina. If you can imagine, it's going to open up like that. Let's do the base now. Now this is another area that I decided to just make some tweaks that just make it easier for me and make it more sturdy. Now what that was that number we had to remember, 4 3/8. So what I need is 3 pieces of cardstock. I've got a white piece here that's 3 by 6. I've got a piece of the matching Petunia Pop, which is an 1/8 of an inch smaller, so 5 7/8 by 2 7/8, and then a piece of white that is another 1/8 of an inch smaller again. So just a wee border of the Petunia Pop with white above and below. This is the top one, so we're going to pop out another sentiment on there. Now, our number that we had to remember was 4 3/8. So I was going to use what was left of that, but I can't now because I've done horrible things to it. So I'm going to have to grab another piece of Petunia Pop. Hopefully I've got some here somewhere. No. I might just use white actually. Let's use white. I'll use white. Oh, here we go. There's a scrap. We always have scraps of white around, don't we? So this is an inch wide scrap. And what I'm going to do is trim it down to the 4 3/8 that we've just memorised from before. And I'm going to add an inch on either end. So 4 3/8 plus 2 inches is 6 3/8. So 6 3/8. There. Just trim that down. So as I say, 4 3/8 plus an inch, an extra inch for both ends. And I'm going to score that inch at either end. And this is going to form our little bracket that we attach the card to its base. It's like a hinged bracket almost. Okay, so the 4 3/8 that we measured is along the bottom, and then we have these 2 little brackets. Now, the way that I have done the other one, I just basically glued, and this is where I'm going to do it slightly different. I just glued that bracket, because I've done it in Petunia Pop, I glued that bracket to the base and then glued the little 1 inch tabs you can see there to the bottom of the card. That's perfectly fine, and we may have to resort to doing that if this fails anyway, but what I'm going to do is something slightly different with this one. So you're witnessing me changing the design, and I always know that I shouldn't change the design, but I'm going to try it anyway. I'm just going to layer up the first 2 layers, so the large 6 by 3 layer and the contrast colour, what are we calling it? Main colour. Anyway, we'll pop those together. So that's the bottom of our base. You can use the heavier cardstock on the base to keep it nice and heavy so that the thing doesn't wobble around. So this is the top level. So this is the level where we're going to be putting our follow-on sentiment and everything, where we're going to have our accordion sitting, and we have our bracket. Now this is me being a little bit tricky, and let's see if it actually works. I'm going to actually place the bracket, and I did have a bit of an experiment here. I'm going to place the bracket underneath the top, the base plate, right? So my logic here is that it's going to stay firm and it's not going to wobble. This is the plan. It could be a disaster, and it's cleaner. I think it's a bit cleaner because you don't see that piece underneath. So this is the plan. Let's see if it works. Could be a disaster, but we'll come back to it if it is. So my way of doing that is I'm going to grab a little craft knife. I'm going to position the little bracket in the centre as well as I can, and straight in the, I'm going to grab some, ow, spiked myself. I'm going to grab something underneath to partially protect my table. I should have a cutting mat. Where's my cutting mat? I don't call them cutting mats for no reason. I'll put that underneath. That would be better, wouldn't it, Julianne? Okay, so central, you can measure it out so you're nice and precise if you want, but I'm just going to do a Julianne and make it by eye. So straight, centre-ish. Okay. Yep. Grab my craft knife, and without cutting the score is the plan. I'm going to follow that along and cut a straight line. That's the theory. You could just get a pencil and cut and draw it, and use scissors or something This was me being inspired, she says. Okay, so there we are. So I have 2 slits. This is the theory. You're watching me work it out as we go. So there's 2 slits. Now, in theory, I should be able to then just put one end of that up there. I may have to cut it a little bit with scissors where the craft knife hasn't gone all the way through. Where are you? Cut it with scissors where it hasn't gone all the way through and gently put it through. I extend it a little bit further if it's not quite gone far enough. There's the first one through. Ta-da! She says. So there's the first one. And then we'll do the second one. Take it a little bit further, but it's a bit squishy. Just a little bit further. Hardly a millimetre. Take it a little bit further. Get it through. Okay, we've got both sides through now. We have lift off. So fold those back on their little scores. Make sure it's all flat. Okay. You have to fiddle your scores a little bit. Okay, so I've got my little bracket through the base plate. Okay, so let's glue it onto the rest. Let's hope this works. Get rid of my craft knife or I'm going to cause myself an injury. So let's glue that. To this one. Now, the video that I watched cut 2 little L-shaped brackets, inch by inch or 2 inches by 1 inch, and actually attached them separately. Attach them separately to the base of the card and then separately to this. And I felt that that was a little bit hit and miss. That was just my thought. So that's why I went with the solid one, which is the solid one that I used on here, which was just one piece of cardstock dipped up. And then my thought went to this as a bit of an extension of that. Okay, so let's try. Let's see if this works. Okay, so we've got, I'm going to put a bit of glue on this one. Put quite a bit of glue actually. Don't scrimp on the glue, I don't think. Don't want it to mush out the sides, but we don't want it to come up. Oh dear, come back together, you. Okay, so we're bringing it down. I might have to bring my head over the top so I can actually see that I'm getting it lined up properly. So line up the front with the front, the sides with the sides. Forgive my head, I'm going to bring it in and make sure it's straight at the back, which it is. Okay, and then I'm going to sit here and whistle a song while it actually takes the glue. Okay, so we'll just sit here. How do we think it's going so far, guys? What have we got of you? 12. Woo-hoo. Now, if you wanted to stamp a sentiment onto your base, I keep pushing that down. If you wanted to stamp, I've done that again. If you wanted to stamp a sentiment onto that base, you probably should have done it before you got to this point. It'd probably be easier to bring in a stamp onto that little front if you actually wanted to. But I'm going to use another little, stay there. I'm going to use another little sentiment from the paper rose. So I'm just going to pop it there with a little dimension on. So it says, stay colourful, you're a work of art. So that's what I'm going to do. But as I say, if you're going to stamp it, I probably would have done it before we popped them. You are going to get me so angry. Oh, because it's down there. Okay, I understand. I understand. There you go. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to pop a little sentiment from the thingy from the collection there as well. Okay, so this is the Julianne version of this card. Hopefully that's taken enough. And look, ta-da! There we go. So with my version, with that in there, which might be a bit tricky, you know, have a bit of a practice, get your craft knife out, don't kill yourself. You can actually see there's nothing in there. It looks like it's magic because it's all underneath the thing. Oh, wow, I'm pleased with that. That's worked really well. Ta-da! Okay, so what I'm going to do is grab this little extra Euro work of art. Not a piece of work. That's what Mum used to say when we were in trouble at home. You're a piece of work. No, this is a work of art. You don't want to say to somebody you're a piece of work. Did anyone else's mum used to say that? God, you're a piece of work. Or hard work or something. Got away with saying things to us that probably you wouldn't get away with saying these days. Okay, so I'm popping that hopefully central-ish. Hard to see where the central when your hands are all over it, isn't it? Hang on, where's my plier, my little tweezers? Let's get that central-ish and straight-ish. There we go. Okay, so we've got it. You're a work of art there. You're a piece of work there. And then it flips open like that. So as you can see, I've kept the cardstock nice and light, and it's got a nice spring to it. Whereas if you used heavier cardstock, like with this original one that I made, now where's this one? This is the original one I made that had the difficulty getting because my thingy was all flunky. It was heavier cardstock and it doesn't spring as nice. See what I mean? So they're exactly the same length of accordion. This one, because it's heavier, it doesn't spring as nice as the light one. So nice light cardstock for your accordion, nice light cardstock for your boxes, and then it springs nice and springy. Then I'm going to grab this ribbon, and it's so nice now that this is retired Stampin' Up ribbon, so I can use retired Stampin' Up ribbon. Hopefully it's roughly the same, but the right size because they're all the same. Just got a piece of ribbon. I've tied a little bow in it, quite a big bow actually, probably too big, and I can fit that on there, and the thing stays together nicely. Probably could be a little bit tighter, but that's all right. And then you take that off, give it to your person, fill it with something nice and light and even on both sides. Remember, ba-ding, and it does that. That is so cool. I really like this one. I may make a million of them and then have nothing to actually do with them. Gail said, what weight was the light cardstock? This for the accordion, Gail, is the Stampin' Up 2-tone, the 12 by 12, the 30 centimetre by 30 centimetre that you buy in packs of colours. I'm not quite sure what weight it is. I'm sure I could look it up, but yeah, so it's the Stampin' Up 2-tone, and the cardstock for the boxes is just normal standard white cardstock from Stampin' Up as well. It is going to take me a little while to work through my Stampin' Up stocks, so generally what you see will be Stampin' Up. And as I say, if you need to buy it, you can't buy it from me anymore. I'm sure I can point you in the direction of someone you can buy it from, because all my best friends are still Stampin' Up demonstrators. Yeah, I'm really happy with the way that base has worked. It's really solid because it's not wibbling anymore, because it's actually secure down there where the little slits are. So it's not wibbly. Well, it's a bit wibbly there, but it's not wibbly down the bottom. It's nice and firm. So even the one I did here was a little bit wibbly at the base. But this one is nice and firm. And it looks like magic. It looks like... I'm easily amused, but it looks like it's sort of magically attached at the corners there. There you go. Okay, so what else was I going to say? That's my version of the accordion box fold. It seems to be everyone's making their versions of it at the moment, but that's my version. Hopefully you find that easy. You can make a few adjustments for your own style. Yep, that's mine there, using that little artist's collection there from a paper rose. As I say, I'm not selling it, I'm just using it. So if you like it, please head online and check it out for yourself. Now we are still, so that's hopefully like that. I'd love to see in group. I'd love to see what you come up with and how you decorate yours, please. The group is going to be more aimed at sharing now. So yeah, please come to group and share. I'm keeping it as an Australian closed group, just because we do swaps and things, and yeah, because we do swaps and things, and I really want it to stay that we're swapping in Australian, we not have to worry about overseas swaps and things like that. So I am keeping group Australian, which means I'd love for you to share with your Aussie friends. I'm sounding a bit nationalistic, aren't I? We are continuing also with our Come Craft With Me. As I say, there's nothing, I'm just doing it because somebody said to me, why do you keep doing it if you're not being paid? And I said, because this is where my friends live, and if I don't do it, I have no friends. So that's sort of sad, isn't it? We are continuing with Come Craft With Me. I've put the next one for the, yes, Leanne, you could probably make it 2 inches and it would be really, really secure. Yes, anyway, that's all right. 1 inch works. Yes, so definitely we're going to do Come Craft With Me on the 15th of March. It would usually be the earlier Sunday, but I think we're going away, so I'm not quite sure because that's a long weekend. I think we're going away. So 15th of March, late afternoon. We're going to make, and I stole this as a design from Brandy's cards. She recently put a post up, so I've popped that there. Making sort of like a little picket fence one. What actually appealed to me was the fact that it's mostly just one card base worth of cardstock plus a couple of strips, which, let's face it, I just mentioned, we have strips. If you're like me, you've got a whole bag of strips that you've put aside to use one day, so you can use some of those strips as well. So definitely grab, there's an event up for the 15th of March. Make sure you save that event, and we're going to make this one. Obviously, I'll show you how to make the picket fence card, and it's up to you how you decorate it. I'll give you an idea. I've used just a Stampin' Up, what's it called? Mixed floral bundle for that one, and it's a little sentiment there as well. So yeah, so basically come along on the 15th afternoon. We'll make that one together. I've already popped the measurements of the cardstock that you're going to need into the event. So I realise it's a little ways away yet, but yeah, get ready for that one on the 15th. But anyway, we're finished for today. I've got my beautiful accordions, what we've got so far. I'm sure there will be more because I'm a little bit addicted. But anyway, so thanks for joining me. Yes, I'd miss you too, Sharon. I definitely would. And you've added Susan. Okay, I'll make sure Susan gets into group. We don't have we've got, what have we got happening in group at the moment? We've got a card tag game. So look for the post of that if you'd like to be a part of card tag. And if you wonder what card tag, there's an explanation there as well. Swap for the month is already organised and gone, but there'll be a new swap early in March. There'll be a new swap as well. I'm not quite sure what I decided. Easter New Beginnings is the swap for March. But anyway, so if you want to be part of that, please check out that post as well when it goes in the next couple of weeks. Okay, thanks guys for joining me. Have a great Saturday. As I say, if you're watching on YouTube, I will upload this video once it's done. I'll pop the measurements for our accordion card into the description of both YouTube and Facebook, and hopefully I'll see you all again next weekend, hopefully. Okay, bye guys.